What's up everyone, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be showing you exactly how I install a volume Genius Weft, but this time I'm going to be doing it a little bit differently. So I've already made a Genius Weft install video, but this is something that I've been getting a lot of comments and questions about in that previous video. So I realized that there were a few things that I needed to go deeper into and do a deeper explanation on. So in this video, I'm going to break down step by step and answer the questions that you guys have been asking the most. Things like, how do you create a clean foundation? Where exactly should those beads sit? How tight is too tight? How do you avoid tension? How to make that row comfortable for the client? And how to get a clean, flat, seamless finish. Because here is the truth. Installing a weft is not just about sewing the hair onto the head. The real work is in the sectioning, the bead placement, the tension, the stitching, and really understanding how the hair is going to move once the client leaves your chair. So make sure you watch this video all the way through, because I'm going to show you the little details that can completely change the result of your install. And if you're new here, my name is Sam. I'm a hair extension specialist and educator based in Los Angeles. And on this channel, I share real behind the chair education for stylists who want to improve their extension work, avoid damage, and create better results for their clients. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and follow me on Instagram @samhair, and on TikTok @extensionistla, because I post a lot more tips, behind the scenes installs, and quick education over there as well. Also, if you want to see the tools I use day to day in the salon, check out my Amazon storefront. I'll leave the link in the description. And yeah, let's get into the volume Genius Weft install, and I'm going to be answering all your questions as I go, all the ones that I'm noticing you guys have been asking. All right, guys, you have seen me do a beaded foundation time and time again, but let's just do one more time so you can really see what I'm doing. So this would be a straight row, and usually I do a row like this in that nape area. So I wanted to show you an example of a straight row. Sometimes I might do this actually if someone has really thick hair, then I'll do 2 straight rows, one here, and then I go into 2 longer rows on top. So for my beaded foundation, the width of it is going to be the width of my thumb, and the depth of it is usually going to be about 1/4 of an inch. So I always like to start in the middle. That's just my preference. Carving out my first bead, making sure everything's nice and even and straight. And then I'm going to put my first bead in here, making sure I don't have any little crosshairs. And I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to clamp, 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 and I'll flip up and make sure that I've got nice movement. You want to make sure that your bead is nice and secure, but not too tight. If it's too tight, it's going to be uncomfortable for that client. So you want to make sure that they still have really nice movement within the foundation. And I always ask my client as I go if it feels tight, and if they say yeah, then I can just adjust it really easily. You guys always ask me questions about my beads as well. So usually for my beads, I've got a favorite. I really like the El Pro beads. And then the beads that I'm using right now are going to be the Mesh Mastery beads. And then for the sides of the beads, because I'm using a volume Genius Weft or any sort of Genius Weft, my preference on size is going to be the 3.4 times 2 times 4. And then for the Lush, I like the 2x4 bead. And then it's really important to remember that as you come to the sides, you are leaving about 1 inch away from the hairline. And that's to make sure that when your client wears their hair up, you're not going to see that weft sticking out. So just bear that in mind as you're coming towards the end of this foundation here. Keeping your beaded foundation even and clean is only going to benefit you when you come to installing that weft extension. I feel like the cleaner you can keep your foundation, the easier it's going to be to install that volume Genius Weft. And then another thing is it's also going to keep those stitches looking really, really nice and clean and even. Whenever I'm teaching in-person classes, we always spend a lot of time on the foundation because the foundation is just as important as the actual install itself. It all goes hand in hand. And then I'm just going to do one more bead here. I don't want to work too far into the hairline here because I want to make sure that when that client wears their hair up, you're not going to see the weft. So really important to just kind of keep an eye on that as you're working your way around. Perfect. Once I'm happy with my foundation, I'm just going to do a little cross check here. And we are good to install that Volume Genius Weft. So the difference between your Volume Genius and your Genius Weft is going to be that with your Genius Weft hair extension, you're going to stack and layer them. Rather than with your Volume Genius, the work has already been done for you. So what I'm going to do in my next video is I'll do a side-by-side comparison of this Volume Genius Weft compared to the Genius Weft. With your Genius Weft, you have the option of doing a hidden row and a standard row. So for the next video, I'll do a standard row with the Genius. And again, with this, it's going to be a standard row because these are very dense. So you wouldn't want to stack and layer these on a row because then it would be way too heavy. The idea of this is that it almost acts like a Genius Weft that's been stacked 3 or 4 times, but it's already been done for you. So you can see how dense just that one piece of weft is. So now I don't have to flip anything up because this is just going to be installed straight on top of those beads. So now I'm just going to line up this weft to the edge of my foundation, and I'm just going to use a clip to secure it down. And then I'll line it up here, and then I'll just put my clip there. And if my weft is longer than my foundation, I can just trim off any excess. So you would have seen, if you watch my previous Volume Genius Weft video, I used a single thread. So for today, let me show you how to install this using a double thread. And I am using pink thread so that you can see my stitches. But if this were a real person, I would use a thread that matched the root color. Same for the beads. You always want to use a bead that matches the root color. So where my row is a smaller row, I will do just like 1 arm's length of thread. I always get asked about these needles. So these gold needles are from Hair Made Easy, and they are the perfect size. And I also really like how sharp they are as well. So if you're ever doing an install where you have to pierce through anything, they're really good. So because we are doing a double thread, I'm going to just thread my needle through, make sure that it hangs down in the middle, and then I'm going to do a triple knot to secure it. So for that, you're going to fold the thread over your fingers like that. 1, 2, 3, and then you'll just pull those 2 ends through. And that is your triple knot. Trim off the excess, and let's start. So we're going to start in our 3rd pocket. So let me peel the weft back so you can see. So 1, 2, 3. So we're going to start in this 3rd pocket here. And I'm going to drop my needle down through that pocket of hair, go under the weft, and I'm just going to split this thread into 2. So you're going to have a piece here and a piece here. And this is just a really simple lock stitch, and I'll just pull that up to secure. And now we're going to do a blanket stitch. So we're going to go down through that pocket, underneath the weft, and then just go into that blanket stitch. And then I'm going to do that another time here. 1 more blanket stitch. And then I'm going to go right at the end of this pocket here, down through it, and down and underneath the end of the weft. And now instead of a normal blanket stitch, I'm just going to wrap my thread around the needle one time to make sure that that anchor is really, really nice and secure, and lock that little knot into place. And now we can go back on ourselves into blanket stitches. So again, now through that second pocket, down through the second pocket, under the weft, and pulling up to secure. And again here, down through the third pocket and pulling up to secure. And now we're just going to do this the whole way through our blanket stitches, down through the pocket and under the spine of the weft. So as I'm going, I always want to make sure that I'm feeling for that bead. And if you want, you can kind of peel back the weft to see where that pocket is. And then you always want to have your thumb here. So can you see how close to the spine of the weft my thumb is? That's because I want to make sure that my stitches are living as close to the weft as possible. If you are losing control of your thread or where that needle is lying, then it's going to be really hard to create a stitch that is, one, going to lock up and sit close to the spine of the weft, and two, you don't want to create splits in your weft. You want to make sure that you have a full coverage install. And the way that you ensure that is by keeping control of your stitches and your needle. If you find that your thread is getting tangled like me, all you have to do is just take the two pieces of thread and just gently unravel to get rid of that tangling that is going to occur. So just carrying that thread across and going down through the pocket. If you've seen my Genius Weft videos, you'll notice that I usually do another stitch here. But because the weft has already been enforced together in the factory, I don't have to do any extra stitch work where I have to stitch the wefts together as well as onto the foundation. So your stitching for this is so straightforward. You're only ever going down through the pocket of hair. You don't have to do any extra blanket stitches anywhere, which is nice. So for that reason, I feel like it makes this install super duper quick. So who is a volume Genius Weft good for? It's going to be great for those clients that have really thick, dense hair. It's also going to be great for clients that maybe have that thick, blunt haircut and they need the most coverage. Then your Volume Genius is going to be great for those kind of clients. Think of those clients that you usually install a volume weft on or a flex weft on. This is that weft that you're going to be reaching for the most. So if you have someone that has really thick density and you're using a lot of Genius wefts, you're having to stack them, layer them, then definitely look into the Volume Genius, because you're going to find you'll get just as much coverage, if not more, with less work. All right, guys, so I have now come to the end of my install. So I did one last blanket stitch in the second to last pocket, and now I'm going to finish off the same way that I started. So how I'm going to finish is I'm going to do a blanket stitch down through that last pocket, and then I'm going to do one more, but I'll do that little knot that you saw me do at the start. So again, down right in the end of that pocket and right towards the end of this Genius Weft. And then I'm going to just wrap my thread around my needle one time, and then I will go and pull that up to secure, making sure that it's nice and secure. I always will do this little trick where I take either piece of the thread and make sure that it's all even and that knot is nice and secure. Then I'm going to take my thread and needle and I'm going to drop it down through that second to last pocket, and I'm going to do a closed blanket stitch now. Pulling up to secure, and again now in that third to last pocket. And then I'm going to do one more here. And now in this area, just under the spine of the weft, in between these pockets, I'm going to drop my needle down, take my thread, and I'm going to go 1, 2, 3. Do a triple knot, and I'm going to pull that up to secure. Now I'm going to take my 2 pieces of thread. I'll cut off the needle. And I'm going to take these 2 pieces here and tie them 3 times. So 1, 2, and 3. Then I'll just take my little clippers and cut off the excess thread. And there you have it. Did you see how easy that was? So easy, so quick, no extra work. You don't have to stack or layer anything. It's all done for you. And it looks really clean and it's really nice and secure. The one little thing that I'm going to do that you see me do in every weft install is the flip up. So I always want to flip up and check that I don't have any little crosshairs in there. So with my comb, I'm just going to go through, make sure there's no crosshairs. And if there is, I can just gently slide them out with my comb. But look at that, so easy. So now what I would do after this is I would go and repeat this and do 2 more longer rows right above this. Okay guys, I am not one to gatekeep, so I'm gonna now answer the most asked question that I always get, and it is pricing. How much do I charge? Why do I charge this much, etc, etc. So let's talk about the Volume Genius Weft. The Volume Genius Weft, as you saw, is a little bit quicker to install than your Genius Weft extensions because you're not having to stack or layer anything, regardless of if it was a hidden row or if it was just like a normal install with those Genius Wefts. This is so much easier. So the hair is going to be usually a little bit more expensive because you get so much hair, but the install is going to be cheaper than a Genius Weft install. So for example, for me, let's say the hair costs $1,000. My install on 1 pack of Volume Genius Weft would be $375. So for a long row, it's $150 per long row. And then for a mini row like this, it's $75. So typically with a Volume Genius Weft install, I'm doing 2 longer rows and 1 mini row. So 150 plus 150 plus 75 is $375. So if the hair's $1,000, my install is $375. The total for the client would be $1,375. Another one of my top questions is always about maintenance. So your maintenance for your Volume Genius Weft is going to be a move up every 4 to 6 weeks. And then you're going to do a reinstall using the same hair, usually around every 12 to 18 weeks. Typically what I do is I do that mini move up about 2 times. So one 4 to 6 weeks, another one 4 to 6 weeks, and then I take everything out, freshen up the beaded foundation, and reinstall the weft and resew everything at the 12 to 18 week mark. The only person that I wouldn't do a move upon is someone that is really, really fine and is a heavy shedder. However, even for my finer head clients, I still usually can do 1 move up before I do that full reinstall. So always check in with the client, check in and see how it's doing, and then you can decide from there if you want to do a mini move up, if you want to do 1, if you want to do 2, or if you want to opt to reinstall every time. That also kind of brings us on to the lifespan of the hair. So you guys would have seen, I use a lot of Covey hair, and the reason that I like Covey is because it has a long lifespan. My clients love that. They don't mind investing the money if they know it's gonna last. So with Covey, I would say on average, you're gonna get between 6 to 12 months out of the hair. I do have clients that can go longer than 12 months, but of course it all depends on their at-home aftercare. My clients that get 6 months out of their hair, usually it's because they're really heavy on the hair. They put a lot of heat on the hair, a lot of styling. Sometimes I find with my blonde clients as well, they tend to get a little bit less of a lifespan. And also I have clients that just like to refresh their hair more often than others. I'm definitely one of those clients. I love to have new hair. So for me, for example, I tend to get new hair about 3 times a year, rather than some people, they might only need new hair 1 time a year. And finally, let's talk about aftercare, because aftercare is so important. Aftercare is what's going to give your extensions the longest lifespan. Product wise, you always want to make sure that within your arsenal you have a really good shampoo, conditioner, anything that's moisturizing or hydrating is going to be your best friend. And then you always want to make sure that you're using a heat protectant, especially if you're putting heat on your hair. Another thing that you want is some sort of finishing oil that's going to keep those ends hydrated. So for me, my go-tos right now is I love the detox shampoo from The Way. I love the Milbon restorative shampoo, and I love the Milbon moisture conditioner. My aftercare products that I use for when I'm styling the hair is going to be the Kerastars Cement Thermique. That's my heat protectant. And then I also really like the K18 oil. Kerastars also have an overnight 8-hour repair oil, and I love to use that as well. Anything that's just going to keep those extensions feeling nice and hydrated is perfect. You don't want to have dry, broom looking hair extensions, because that's going to be a dead giveaway. I hope you guys found this video helpful. I really wanted to remake that volume Genius Weft, because then I can answer your questions that you had on my last one and give you a more detailed breakdown and kind of talk about a little bit of the aftercare, the pricing, everything that I noticed I was getting in those comments. So remember, the biggest thing to focus on are clean sectioning, proper bead placement, controlled tension, secure stitching, and making sure that the row feels comfortable for the client, not just on the day of the install, but also for the full 6 to 8 weeks until their maintenance appointments. If this video helped you, please make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel, because I'm always posting more in-depth extension education. I'm also doing Genius Weft, K-tips, I-tips, nanos, tape-ins, and any sort of advanced techniques that I can think of for stylists. Also, let me know in the comments what part of the install you want me to break down next, and do you want a video that is a little bit deeper in the bead foundation or the stitching or the sectioning, maybe even a video on cutting or blending? Let me know. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram, xsamhair, and on TikTok, I'm Extensionist LA. You're gonna see a lot more behind the scenes on there. And what I'll do is I will leave my Amazon storefront in the description with all of my favorite tools that I use every day behind the chair. You can also find my discount code, which is SamHines10, and that is gonna work on any of your Hair Made Easy or L Pro orders. And remember, I am using Covey hair. It is a Covey Volume Genius Weft. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all of your supports. Leave me questions that you might have down below, and I will see you in the next video.